Okay, guys, I'm not gonna lie. This episode of Despair Side absolutely crushed me. I mean, it was just so powerfully emotional. I cried my eyes out, to be quite honest. I mean, I definitely hit it as well as I could, but yeah, I cried my eyes out. And the weird thing about this is normally when it comes to Danganronpa, I don't get that emotionally invested in a character. I mean, most of the characters in Danganronpa, to me, are quite over the top. They're quite ridiculous. I mean, it's all part of Danganronpa's style. It's very grotesque with everything that goes on, but it's also comical in the way that it handles things. And that's not what we really had when it came to Chisa in this episode. I mean, seriously, there have been other things in Danganronpa that have made me sad. Especially when it came to Danganronpa 2. I definitely got more emotionally invested in that one than number 1. When it came to like the Mikan in chapter 3, that was bad. But then incredibly in chapter 5, when it came to Chiaki and Komaeda, two of my favourite characters, going out at roughly the same time and in such horrible ways. Like, that was extremely powerful to me. I felt sad about it. I cried a little bit towards the end of that execution. But then, like, watching it again after that, I've not felt that same level of emotion. That's where it's different with this Chisa torture scene. Because I fucking love Chisa. If you didn't see my theory video the other day, the basic idea behind it is that Chisa is on this, like, next level goddess tier status. And I mean, I still stand behind that, don't get me wrong. It's just the fact that this scene was so disgustingly horrible. Having her tortured. I mean, just watching the video wasn't so bad. It was fucked up to see her tearing up, to see her with her eyes forced open in that position. Bad enough as it was. But then we had Mukuro, man. And absolutely fuck Mukuro. Like, I liked her in Danganronpa but Jesus Christ, man. The fact that she did that. And this is one of the things. Like, there are characters that I love that are completely insane. Like, Mikan and Junko. Even if one of them had done this scene, I don't think I could like them anymore. I think that's why I'm just done with Mukuro. Using the needles, man. Stabbing them into her brain. And that is an actual fucking brainwashing technique, which is so fucked up. I mean, she was doing this thing where she stimulates the pleasure centers of the brain, making it so that while she's looking at this video, while she's seeing all this graphic, disgusting imagery, feeling all this despair, she's also having her brain manipulated so that she's essentially having orgasms, getting turned on, enjoying it, serotonin's flowing, all of that kind of shit. So she's getting conditioned, essentially, to enjoy despair, the same kind of way that Mikan does. And that's what's so messed up as well. Mikan apparently didn't even need that level. Mikan just needed to watch one of the older versions of the video, and she went pretty much full despair. I mean, I don't even consider what her and the other reserve course students are as at like an ultimate despair kind of level. They're just brainwashed. They're not really full of despair because Junko doesn't really need them so much. That's what I've been seeing from this. The video that she uses on people just brainwashes them, just makes them do her bidding. We had Sakakura talking about how the reserve course students following her around were just looking batshit insane. We had that reserve course student who killed himself in front of Chisa, eventually, essentially arguing against it, saying, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, even as he cuts into himself. I mean, you could argue that he did go full despair, and that was his thing of like, oh, my despair would be dying, so I don't want to die, that's why I'm doing this, to feel despair. But I think that's just a brainwashing technique more than anything else. The true despair is something she hasn't actually done yet. She hasn't actually gotten to this point with the 77th class where she actually turns them into ultimate despair. And that's why a lot of people that are worrying right now that the video is going to be what puts the 77th class into full despair. Nah, I don't think that's it. Fortunately, I think it's worse. I mean, now that we have the brainwashed Chisa, who is doing Junko's bidding, who enjoys torture and despair. I mean, we already saw it get perfectly set up. We had Mikan describing exactly what was going down. Mikan talked about the idea of Chiaki being the leader of the class. And at the same time, We already know who the real leader of the class was. It was Chisa. So we've got these two leaders of the class, these two beacons of hope. Chisa, who brought the class all together and made it fun for them, who started that hope-filled adventure. And then Chiaki, who learnt from Chisa to be friends with everyone, to engage with everyone, to share that hope, to share her experiences, and then kept the class together with all those fun activities while Chisa was gone. They are the two sources of hope in Class 77's life. I mean, we even saw it more in this episode with Chiaki rallying everyone together in front of Nagito, pulling everyone together and showing that level of ultimate hope. And that's why I think that's definitely what's going to throw Class 77 into despair. I mean, that's not exactly a new theory either. A lot of people have been saying it's got to be Chiaki's death that ultimately turns them into ultimate despair. It's just that now we have it set up in an even more fucked up way than we could have imagined. With the idea that the brainwashed Chisa is going to be the one that kills Chiaki in front of the 77th class to show them true despair and make them really feel that. And man, it's been set up so damn well. I mean, there are so many death flags on Chiaki, like, from even before this anime started and people didn't know if she was going to be in it. As soon as it turned out she was in it, there were death flags instantly planted on her, because she doesn't appear in Danganronpa 2. And while there are a lot of theories floating around that maybe she is in Mirai-Hen, you know, we've not seen her. Chances are she does die and she is a sacrificial character. I mean, especially when the opening changed and suddenly she went from this emotionless Chiaki to this Chiaki who was smiling just in this sad kind of way that I always felt looked like she was saying goodbye. And one of my theories back then, which I now have to re-bring out, is the idea that that's how Izuru Kamakura is going to start thinking about hope as well as despair. That Chiaki's death is going to be in a way where she wants still to save Chisa herself. She wants to save Chisa and she wants to save Hajime. And so while Chisa is trying to kill her, she's going to be saying things like, no, you don't have to do this. And when it is the point where she's going to die anyway, she'll probably just be telling Chisa, don't blame yourself, this isn't your fault, this isn't you, kind of thing. And I'm wondering if Chiaki's death will actually snap Chisa out of despair. I mean, she'll still be a horribly emotionally broken woman, which is horrible as it is, but she won't be like completely insane and brainwashed. I think it will get to that point where Chiaki's self-sacrificing will remind Chisa a little bit of hope and a little bit of her class, the love that she had for her students and for Munakata. And yeah, she'll come back from that. And that will be the point where Izuru sees something other than despair that's more interesting to him. I mean, he already got a little bit interested by despair, but you can see in this episode he's getting bored of that too. He's getting bored of seeing Junko's mind-washing techniques just continuously working. He wants to see it go wrong. He wants to have something other than despair. And so if Chiaki does manage to save Chisa in that way, and Chisa does manage to get out of there, then I think that's a good, like, strong way to do it. Class 77 falls into despair. Someone takes Chisa out of there and protects her. And they essentially design the Neo World program probably around her. I mean, one thing that did always bug me about the Future Foundation was the fact that they built the Neo World program, even though Munakata Kyosuke, who basically runs the place, was continuously talking about how they just have to destroy despair. They never have to really try to cure it. But they have that whole division. Like, that whole division underneath Miyaya Gekogahara is not only just security and, like, internet security, computer security, but just the general idea of also curing despair and building the Neo World program as well. So that could be it, that Munakata Kyosuke wanted to have that kind of scenario. And especially if it is Miyaya Gekogahara who works on Chisa Yukizome, tries to get her functioning in society again, tries to fix her broken mind. Like, that would explain even stronger than the idea of Ryota Mitarai talking to Miyaya Gekogahara why they decided to put Chiaki into the Neo World program. If it is ultimately Chisa actually killing Chiaki Nanami that snaps her out of her despair, and she talks about how this student was like a beacon of light to the entire 77th class and how she gave up her life to save Chisa, essentially. That would be the perfect reason to put Chiaki Nanami in as a character, as the Watcher, looking after the class or looking after whoever is full of despair, because she was that kind of beacon of hope in life, and it was a way to remember her. So yeah, that was a whole lot of talking just about Chisa, but yeah, essentially I do think she is full despair now. I think she's going to end up killing Chiaki in front of the 77th class, and that, I can only imagine how horrible that scene's going to be. I mean, Chisa and Chiaki have already had so many sweet moments together. It was Chisa that pulled Chiaki out of her loneliness. So there's going to be some intense flashbacks there. There's going to be some intense emotional moments. Chiaki's probably going to say all the right things. We're going to have Chisa like trying to fight her brainwashing but not really being able to do it and going a bit insane. And then the ultimate thing when she does do it but then snaps out of her brainwashing and is even more fucked up by that, man. That's going to be absolutely insane. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I do think she's going to get cured, and I still stand by my theory that the Mirai-Hen killing game is actually to cure the Future Foundation and to make them, you know, less insane. I mean, especially if Kyosuke did really do something like that to try and help Chisa. I mean, he knew that she at one point fell into despair, and she realizes Kyosuke would gladly kill her at this point if she was in despair and wasn't someone that was close to him. And linking that to the idea of him stabbing Chisa's body the second time with the sword, that could even be why he snapped at that point. Why he decided to move on from that. He started to think of himself as needing to sever that tie that he should have severed before. He knew that Chisa had fallen into despair before. The possibility of her being part of this killing game, of actually controlling this killing game, he realized that he should have killed her back then in his head. And it was him deciding, okay, I have to kill all of these people because they may be despair in the building. Like, no matter what, even if they were my friends, I need to sever all ties. I need to be pure hope without any connections to the world and just kill anyone who may be even slightly related to despair. So yeah, that's some Mirai-Hen talk for you in the middle of the Zetsubou-Hen review. I'm sorry, I am very much on that theory right now. So yeah, Munakata Kyosuke in this episode, yeah, he was getting more full of shade. Like that moment when he showed up, he was looking through the files, he was looking at Junko's one. I mean, we found out that Junko got let in by the steering committee. That was interesting in itself. Did Junko know someone from there originally, or was it one of those moments where she was torturing another old man? Because she does seem to have like a fetish for torturing the steering committee for some reason. She killed like half of them already. God damn. She really likes killing those old guys. But yeah, it seemed like Munakata already knew about Junko, possibly, like I said in the last episode, that Sakakura had already worked some of this out, and between Sakakura doing his investigation and Chisa hearing all these rumors and passing them on to Munakata, maybe he realized that Junko and Mukuro were the ones to blame, and maybe he did, like I said in the last episode, decide to let things get to this kind of level and then try to show up and save everything. He just wasn't accounting for the fact that Juzo's gonna get the shit knocked out of him. I mean, he's trusting Juzo at this point. This may well be why he says in the future, you know why. Because at this point, Juzo just straight up lets him down. He doesn't manage to do the one thing he's supposed to be good at, punching people. Which I can't blame him for. I mean, Juko's got those ultimate analysis skills. I mean, it was so cool in this episode seeing her upgrade her plan as well. I mean, originally her plan clearly was just to make Chiaki and Nanami watch the video and just turn her to despair that way. But then she met Chisa and it was like, oh, I've got a better idea now. Like, she upgraded her plan probably to the idea of Chisa killing Chiaki and making them true ultimate despair. Like, that was really cool to me. Seeing her mind work that quickly and figure out a new plan. Oh, man. So yeah, major shade being thrown on Munakata once again. Even back here in the past, he was a bit of a dick. Always going for those power plays and, you know, if he really did know what was going on from a while before this, maybe this is the original thing that Tengen meant when he was talking about him having sacrificed Yukizome. Because he didn't actually just get rid of the problem and come in earlier and instead let it grow to this kind of size where it would be more monumentous for him to overcome it. Maybe. Anyway, moving on from him. Ultimate Imposter. Holy shit. We got to see what might have been his real face. I mean, I personally do believe it was his real face. I mean, it just looks so plain. It would be perfect for him. The black hair, the black eyes. Straight up like normal Asian facial features. Nothing that distinguishable about him except for his size. And I like that. I like how simple he is despite having that incredible talent. He talks about how he only has that one skill of actually impersonating other people. He doesn't really have anything for himself and he doesn't trust people kind of thing. Even though in this episode he really shows that he trusted the whole class, which was adorable. Him actually showing his face to them. And Ibuki's reaction to it was amazing. Like she was so freaked out. And it made me think about that time on the island because she was so in love with him on the island when he was dressed up as Tagame. Man, speaking of shipping, god damn. The Peko Hiko was real in this episode, man. That little moment when Peko came in injured and Fuyuhiko was so worried. And then they made each other feel better. And, you know, him doing the whole, they hurt you this bad, we have to get rid of them. Her being all like, young master, like clearly in love. Aww. That was so damn sweet. And, you know, Komaeda X Hope, for real. I mean, that was amazing how he tried to challenge them with the whole, oh, you guys know when to give up, right? You can't handle their despair. Just leading them into the idea of like coming together as a group. Oh man, Chiaki was so great with that. I mean, talking about how they should all come together as a group, and it probably would have worked if they'd stayed together if Mikan hadn't separated her from the rest of the group. I mean, that was all part of Junko's plan as well. Precisely. Oh, and I felt really bad for Mikan. I mean, it's weird. The torture when it came to Mikan wasn't that bad. We didn't really get to see what happened, and as far as we know, she just watched the video a bunch of times and that brainwashed her. It was, again, the very Danganronpa style of it being silly rather than actually fucked up. And in this episode, I did feel bad for her, though, because even though she was used more for fan service and for comedy in the last one, in this one we had her apologizing to Nanami before she shoved her through the door. She actually felt bad. I mean, God, that was sad. Oh, man. And then there was Junko's plan for Ryota Mitarai, which was absolutely incredible, in my personal opinion. I mean, she didn't even have to do much to him at that point. She got him, like, running away from everyone. He fell down. He couldn't get away. And then she just reminded him. Like, she straight up said to him, you did this. This was you. It's your video that's going to make all of your friends fall into despair. And he was so crushed by it. Like, he was just about ready to give up on life. And he was thinking about standing up and fighting. He really wanted to. But that just isn't him. He couldn't do it. So he ran away. And that was brilliant, because that was his level of despair from Junko, which I absolutely love. The way she said that, where she was straight up like, this is your despair. This was exactly her plan. It was a despair just for him, knowing for the rest of his life that he helped cause the tragedy, that he locked his friends into that ultimate despair lifestyle and made all of this happen. She wanted him to survive and get away and just continuously hate himself for this. Man, that was fucked up. Seeing him fall into the water, talk about how anime was stupid and he was just like ready to give up on it. He was giving up on his own talent and everything else. Seeing him laying on the mud bank, wishing that he would have fought, wishing that he could move forward, continuously like falling through the mud. Man, the metaphors in this episode were incredible. I mean, him falling into the darkness of the water, falling into despair, drowning in it. The mud thing where he couldn't move forward and he was literally saying, why can't I move? Oh, and you know, even coming back to Chisa, the visual metaphor when the Munakata like burned away in her head. Because we had that vision of her hope for the future. Her hope of being with Munakata, the man she loves, burning away to darkness. That pure Zetsubou despair kind of shit. So yeah, that is one thing that I did want to add. I'm glad I actually brought up the visual metaphors. Because I think that was just a metaphor of her falling into despair. I definitely don't think, because I saw quite a few people commenting that maybe Chisa has forgotten her past memories, but nah, I think she remembers everything. It's just that that's no longer her vision of hope. Her vision of hope has been taken away from her. Now she just sees despair essentially as hope, kind of thing. Like, that's what she wants. She wants despair. She doesn't want Munakata and her hope-filled future. She just wants pure despair. So yeah, when it comes to Ryota, again, I know there are some very strong theories going around that Ryota's being used by a mastermind, and that Ryota in the future is still like doing the brainwashing anime kind of thing and being used, but I feel like this is kind of the end for him. This is his lowest point. I think when it comes from this point onwards, he'll probably get taken under the wing of Tengen. Like, Ryota will probably just be done. He won't be planning on going back to the school. But I think Tengen will end up finding him, like, knowing about his talent, listening to him about his anime, and probably trying to help him return to using his ultimate talent. Because, you know, Tengen really cares about that. He was like a proper teacher. We heard it when he was talking to Hajime. He believes that humans should have free choice, but also that talents should be used to their maximum effectiveness. He definitely believes in Hope's Peak's ethos about talent being incredible. He just doesn't think it's everything. And so I think he does find Ryota. He tries to guide him a little bit more. And that's why I really, like, again, pushing my ultimate hope, like, remnants of hope theory. I just really want to believe that that's how that whole killing game was set up, so that it would return that kind of faith to Mitarai as well. I mean, especially since he showed up for the killing game, which Tengen didn't expect. That was him not running away this time. I mean, Tengen probably wanted him to be on the outside. He didn't want him to be in the middle of all the danger. But Ryota wasn't up for that. He wanted to join the killing game. He wanted to move forward from his dark past where Junko essentially took away everything from him. I mean, he'd given up on anime at that point. That was his shit. That's what pulled him out of despair. That's what kept him happy. That's what filled him with hope. So yeah, I really, like I said, my remnants of hope theory, I really want to believe in it. I really want to believe that Chisa, you know, even though she's going to have a tragic ending, I really want to believe her life stood for something. Same for Ryota Mitarai. I want to get him his redemption. And, you know, Tengen seemed to know about the killing game, and I want to believe he was a good guy. But yeah, there are a lot of theories that are going against that now. All I know is this episode was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see more, honestly. Like, they've just been so good with this. The way, as I said, that torture scene, god damn, it's still, just looking at pictures of it now, still kind of fucks me up. They did so well at animating those eyes, making it so grotesque and fucked up. Getting me to the point where I now hate Mukuro. Even though, you know, I liked her before. I like psychotic characters. I like Mikan, who's essentially Mukuro, but then, like I said, if they put Mikan into that role, I might not even like Mikan anymore at this point. I might not be able to. Jesus. It was just so intense, man. So yeah. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about all the theories I've just dropped about, oh god, everything, man. Munakata possibly knowing about this stuff for longer than he knew. The idea that Chiaki may be killed by Chisa in front of Class 77. The idea that maybe that will snap Chisa out of her brainwashing. And maybe that will lead to Izuru being more interested in Hope in the future. I don't know, man. Let me know what you guys think as well. All of your own theories in the comments section. You know I love to read them. So throw them out. Even if they're not hope-filled, even if they're despair-filled, you know. It's still cool to see them. And if you enjoyed this review, wreck that like button like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more. And I will see you guys next time.